Welcome back. So, we're going to recap what happened this week in my running journey. First things first, we aim to do 3 runs in the span of a week. And me being completely inexperienced and going from doing 0 runs, thought that would be easy enough goal to actually pursue. But lo and behold, it was a lot more difficult than I anticipated. So the main thing really was the fact that this is a new activity that I'm introducing into my life. And like anything new that you introduce into your life, you have to build up a habit. And so I think it takes about 30 days in order to actually build up a habit that then feels like second nature. So we got a long ways to go until this running actually feels like second nature and I no longer have to force myself to get out the door. Because this week it was very tough to actually find the motivation to go out for these runs. Despite how beautiful some of the trails were, despite how nice some of the weather was, it was just really tough to force myself to get out the door, go for these runs, and put myself in that discomfort. Because at the end of the day, running is not comfortable for me yet, and I don't think it really should be ever comfortable for a person, especially if you're training for specific goals. Obviously, you're going to be pushing your body to extremes and you're going to be pushing past that fatigue, that stage of fatigue. So it's never going to be a feeling of comfort. Obviously, it can provide you with lots of positive feelings during and after the run. I'm not saying that it's like a negative experience or anything like that, but it's going to take a lot of willpower. So at this point, I just need to force myself to get out the door, go for these runs, and not overcomplicate it. I think at this point, it's so easy to procrastinate on runs because my brain overcomplicates the process. I am thinking about, what shoes should I wear? What trail should I run? How far should I run? And of course, right now, that's mainly due to the fact that I'm inexperienced and there's a lack of structure to my running journey. So I don't have any sort of training regiment right now. I'm not aiming towards any specific goals as we speak. I would love to aim towards certain races in the future, but for now, the game plan basically is to find that benchmark for my body, see what I'm capable of. Obviously, if you've watched me throughout the week, this has been a humbling experience. Every single run that I went out on, my ego has been seriously checked. So going into my first run, I thought, okay, this is a trail run. Something that I could easily hike. I got out, started running. Obviously the weather wasn't in my favor, but as soon as we started hitting the trail, uphill right away, steep uphill. And I think within 10 minutes into the run, I was forced to walk for a good portion of it. And that in itself was extremely humbling. I was under the impression that I'd be able to at least slowly run the majority of the route. But again, you kind of have to roll with the punches. If your body's telling you, no, you're not capable of this yet, then listen to it. Listen to what your muscles are saying. And, obviously there's certain times when you can push through it and try to get the best workout you possibly can in the situation. But if you're just not capable of running up a steep hill, then don't do it. Just do a fast walk instead and run when you're able to catch your breath. So that was a learning experience. And I realized very quickly that I don't have the proper breathing techniques either to actually calm my breathing down and prevent additional muscle fatigue. So I found on this first run on the uphill portion, my breath became very raspy, very chesty. I think mainly because of the cold, I could no longer breathe through my nose. My nose felt very plugged up. So I was breathing through my mouth. I was just doing a lot of mouth breathing. I was like, and I think I got to a point where I almost felt like I was hyperventilating, which is obviously not a good place to be at. But yeah, I made it to the top, went a little slower than I anticipated going uphill, but then the downhill was a breeze. I love running downhill on trails. I almost visualize it as a puzzle, so I have to be cautious of where my feet are going, be mindful, where my next foot placement is, and don't trip on the roots, don't slip on the rocks. But yeah, so that was right off the bat, humbling experience, but I really enjoyed it. It was awful conditions as far as weather, just completely like snowy, foggy, rainy, but it was so much fun. Like you feel so great afterwards when you get back to your vehicle and you're able to stretch a little bit. Obviously I didn't stretch as much as I should have. That's something that I need to work on. But then yeah, I can have, a snack, some water, and just kind of evaluate how the run went. That's very satisfying. And that feeling afterwards, you're left with a very amazing feeling of fatigue, I find. Then the second run, it was a flatter run. So I wanted to basically try out a number of different runs. So I wanted to do some trail, some flatter with less elevation gain, and one that was in between. So this one was flat. It was on a hard packed gravel trail pretty close to where I live. And it was an 8 kilometer out and back. So I was, again, my ego got the best of me. So I was thinking that, 8 kilometers on a flat, well-maintained trail, that's gonna be no problem. But it all comes down to obviously how hard you push yourself, and also whether you have proper technique, whether you don't have proper technique. So obviously at this point in my journey, I do not have proper technique. So I think that got the best of me, both in regards to running technique and breathing technique. So I got to about the 4 kilometer, the halfway point, and I was feeling pretty good. Like obviously I was tired, I was slightly out of breath, but on the way back, I got to about the 6 kilometer mark. And when I hit that point, I had to pee, I had to stop and pee. And ever since stopping, I was unable to properly catch my breath. I was breathing through my mouth a lot, and you really feel that muscle fatigue come on very quickly. So the final kilometer was such a struggle. I wanted to finish the run as fast as I could, but there was a time where I ended up cramping up. I had to walk for about 10 seconds or so in order to actually catch my breath and feel like I can actually finish this at a run. But we finished it. It felt great after the fact. During the run, my body felt good, but obviously my breathing and my muscles were just completely spent. The third run barely fitted into the week. It was a real struggle. I wasn't feeling like running that day, but it was a gorgeous day. We had sun, and I just decided to do this loop that I typically walk, and it's actually the area where I film a lot of the kind of more aesthetic B-roll shots. So just decided to go there. I was familiar. I did this loop. I didn't really know the distance, but I ended up deciding to do the loop 3 times, and turns out it ended up being a perfect 5 kilometer loop, which was great because I didn't feel like really doing anything longer than that. And it provided a little bit of elevation gain and a really beautiful scenic trail. It made me feel better about going out and running, and it made me realize that, this is, one of those things that people kind of do it for. Like, they obviously love the workout aspect, but it's amazing to be able to get out, get some fresh air, vitamin D, and just get out into nature and just explore. So yeah, that was the week with the runs that I did. They weren't anything too extreme. I didn't want to do any crazy distances, but I think this week the goal is to do a little bit more research, figure out some better running techniques, some better breathing techniques, what other people do to kind of maximize their lung capacity, their breathing ability, as well as to also prevent early onset muscle fatigue, which I think can be very detrimental, it seems, especially to the latter stage of your run. But yeah, let me know in the comments what works as far as a breathing technique for yourself. I'm really curious because, like I said, I am fresh into this whole running game and I know nothing. So yeah, let me know breathing techniques, running techniques. Obviously, I'm sure it's not a one size fits all. So there's certain adaptations I'm sure you have to do depending on your body type and your running style and whatnot. But yeah, let me know. I'm very curious to see what other people have to say. Yeah, gonna do some research, gonna look into those things that I mentioned, and we're gonna get out for our runs. We're gonna try to stay consistent and make it less of a chore, have more fun, and look forward to actually going out on these runs during the week. Anyways, I appreciate you guys following along on this journey. I really hope we can grow this into something. I'm currently working on finishing my first mini documentary with another runner that will hopefully be able to be posted on this channel in the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned for that. And for now, have a great week. Peace.